This is the plaintiff, Steve Hester. He says he repaired the air conditioning unit at the defendant's rental home, and she has ignored all his requests for payment. He refuses to be ignored any longer and is suing this irresponsible and ungrateful woman for the $146.81 he's owed. This is the defendant, Judy Tabor. She says she doesn't owe the plaintiff a penny. Her tenants do. They hired him to repair the AC unit, and she has no idea why he's billing her. Bottom line, she has ignored all his requests for payment and owes nothing. She's accused of non-payment.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case on the docket. The plaintiff says he serviced the defendant's air conditioning unit and she is stiffing him. But the defendant says she didn't hire the guy, her tenant did, and he should get the money from them. It's the case of it's getting hot in here.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome.
All right, Mr. Hester, you are suing Ms. Tabor for a $146 repair bill from what, 2018?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, tell me about it. Okay, whoever's crawling on the floor, tell him he's right in my picture. And that he'll probably end up on Jimmy Kimmel. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Mr. Hester.
On 7/31/2018, Miss Tabor's tenant called one of my employees, Mr. Lee Bennett, and asked him to come out and check her air conditioner.
Okay.
Mr. Bennett said he had worked for Mrs. Tabor before, and I said that would be okay as long as she was willing to pay the bill. He went and did the work. We repaired her air conditioner.
Did anybody talk to Ms. Tabor?
I billed her. No, ma'am. Spoke to a tenant.
Okay, why wasn't the tenant billed?
She said that Miss Tabor would pay the bill.
To who? You weren't there. Where's your employee who went out and did the work?
Yes, ma'am, and that was set up before he went out.
Okay, this is all hearsay because you weren't there, so can I please hear from, do you have as a witness the person who actually did the work?
I do not.
Because 3 years have passed, so I'm curious, who sent the bill to pay? Did you just recently do an audit or something and figure it out? Or what happened
No,
here?
ma'am,
Go ahead.
We sent the bill on July of 2018, and in the meantime, we tried billing her several times. She never paid it. So we just decided to go ahead and
Why didn't you just bill the tenant since the tenant's the one who called you? Why didn't you just bill the tenant?
The tenant said she wasn't paying it because it was Miss Tabor's property.
Don't you think you should find out from Miss Tabor whether or not she was willing to absorb that cost? Because first of all, do you have any proof that the tenant said that?
No, ma'am, I do not.
Right. And in fact, I do have proof from Miss Tabor. Miss Tabor, who's responsible for minor repairs according to the lease that you had with that tenant?
The tenant.
Because of allowing a lesser amount of rent, tenant will make all repairs to premises, not even small ones, all of them, to keep it up to standards with the exception of any major repairs. No, so it's minor repairs. All right, so did she ever say, hey, you should be the one paying this $146 bill, which qualifies as a minor repair? Did she ever tell you anything about this bill?
Well, no, not until after it was done.
Okay.
And I said, well, that should be your responsibility if you called and had somebody come.
Right. Did you call and have somebody come?
No.
You did. You never had any. Okay. Now, according to Mr. Hester, he says that a person who's not testifying here today told him that you usually get billed. The guy who went out there, is he somebody who you've worked with before or no?
Never.
Okay.
I don't know him.
Right. Interesting. All right. So you told the tenant she had to pay, and then what happened?
The next I knew that Mr. Hester had called me, and I told him the same thing. I said, who called you? Who contracted you to come do this bill? And he said, I don't know. But I said, well, nobody has talked to me. And he said, no, I haven't talked to you. And I said, well, you need to find out who asked you to do the work and bill them. Because I have a guy that goes out and checks in fact, that place isn't there anymore. But anyway, he would check everything and let me know what needed to be done. He might not have been able to do it. I might have had to call somebody else,
but you'd like the opportunity to see if it's something that you have to pay for to use your guy. You didn't hire them. So if she didn't hire you, Mr. Hester, how is it that she should pay you?
Who is the guy she used to use?
It's not you. So
it's probably my ex-employee.
No, she said she'd never met your employee. So you got a lot. Your case is based on an intense amount of conjecture and speculation, isn't it, Mr. Hester? You realize that you have a 3-year-old bill nobody's paid and you want her to pay, but you don't have a contract with her. She never agreed to pay you.
She owns the property, and
so
why did we go out if she didn't have the tenant call us?
She didn't have the tenant call you. The tenant's response. I just showed you the lease. Did you see Did you see that? According to the lease,
that's the first time I've ever seen that.
Okay, well, how about, aside from the fact that that's what the lease says, if I'm the landlord and my tenant hires somebody to do gardening, that person sends me a bill, the first thing I would tell them is, I'm sorry, I didn't hire you. I mean, no matter what the lease said, if I didn't hire you, then why would I pay you? The person who calls you has to pay you. And whatever their arrangement is with their landlord is none of your business. That person pays you, and then that person can argue with the landlord and deduct it from the rent or whatever they want to do. But you can't just say, hey, you own the property, pay me because that other person left me hanging. Because really, that's what happened, right? Did you ever bill the tenant and then the tenant refused to pay?
I billed the tenant, and she said the landlord would pay us.
Yeah, except for the landlord didn't hire you, did she? The tenant did. So why aren't you suing the tenant?
I don't know either one of these people.
Okay,
and Ms.
that's
Tabor
right.
never
You
denied that we did the work until now.
No one cares if you worked there. The question is, who hired you to work there? Nobody's doubting you did the work. It's just that you seem to think, hey, I did the work, somebody pay me. Hey, I know you, the property owner. No, it's whoever contracted you to do a $146 repair. It's not the landlord because they own the property. There's no law that says that. So truer words were never spoken. I've never talked to these people. Okay, well, then I guess you can't really testify that Ms. Tabor agreed to do anything because she says nobody ever talked to her. The only thing that happened was you started sending her bills that don't belong to her. She didn't hire you. She doesn't have to pay you. Verdicts for the defendant.
Well, Mr. Hester, what do you think about this?
I disagree.
You can disagree, but the judge makes the verdict and she finds against you. Put it this way, what have you learned from this?
We will never go out unless the landlord calls us again.
Now, the point is, when somebody books you, they're responsible to pay you. You should make sure they pay you. Don't just say it's the landlord. Wouldn't that be right?
I suppose so.
Well, hopefully you've learned a lesson here. I'm sorry, but that's $146. Obviously, you're not going to get paid. Ms. Tabor, let me ask you, do you feel bad for him? I mean, he repaired the air conditioning in your property.
I don't feel bad. He should have talked to me before. We could have worked it out probably. But he was very rude, hung up on me and said he'd see me in court. I don't owe somebody that I didn't contract to work for me.
Well, the judge agrees with you.
I'm pleased with the verdict, yes.
Okay, that'll wrap it up for the case. Thank you, Ms. Tabor. Good for you. Harvey?
Doug, I don't want to get all legal on you, but there is something in the law called privity of contract. And what that means is you have to have a connection to the person you're suing when there's some kind of a deal made, a contract between the two people. In this case, the landlord did not have a contract with the air conditioning service guy. It was the tenant who did. The tenant is on the hook. That's what the judge said. So the air conditioning guy can go back, sue the tenant, and he'll probably win.
What TV character do you most identify with and why?
That's easy. Linda from Bob's Burgers.
Oh, of course.
Right?
Linda, yes, of course.
Linda, because she has 3 children who she cannot get out of her grill, who she adores, and the silly things that she says.
She likes red wine.
She likes red wine. Mommy doesn't get drunk. Mommy gets happy. I've received a T-shirt that says that every Christmas for the last I don't know what, and I actually met John Roberts, the voice of Linda, and I was so excited. We both ended up on the same show.
I got to.
Right.
with you
We
to
went
his
to his wedding.
which was
and,
wonderful.
And we were like, okay, I am not letting go of. And we went to dinner, we became friends, but I truly did identify with that character.
I'm going to say I most identify with, and this is not really quite as accurate, it's more of like a Walter Mitty fantasy kind of thing, Harry Bosch, okay?
Oh,
from the
geez.
detective show Bosch.
Oh, my gosh, you're obsessed with that guy.
My mom and my dad were police officers. My mother was a homicide detective. Harry Bosch is a homicide detective in the show, and he listens to jazz. I listen to a lot of blues. Like, I like older music. He's got a turntable. I have a turntable.
What's the actor's name?
Titus Welliver.
Okay, Miss Welliver?
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Welliver, he's threatened to get your tattoos. That's how obsessed he is with you.
I want all that ink that he's got up and down his arms. I want the exact ones.
You do
in
love
the
that
exact
show.
places. So, he's my guy.
Okay, that'll do it for this session of the People's Court. We'll see you next time.